It's a run to try to pick up girls in a dungeon season 4 episode 10. And man, what an episode this was. I mean, I know I say this lately from this anime from Danmachi, but these last couple of episodes have been really good, to be honest, and this episode was not the exception. And I actually think this has been the best episode so far. I mean, by a lot, because the things that happened in this episode were brutal. I mean, I was watching the episode, normally enjoying the drama, the confession from Jura, but then suddenly it turned really bloody. I mean, not that the last couple of episodes haven't been bloody or anything like that, but this episode took it to another level, because you're watching normally the episode and then suddenly you see people being sliced up in half and bodies flying everywhere, and man, and it kept that pace throughout the whole episode, because we see even at the end Bale, and we see other people keep getting sliced up and things of that nature. So I mean, the last couple of episodes and even this one have been very bloody. So yeah, it is surprising sometimes how bloody that magic can be, because sometimes you forget about it when you're watching it. You only think about the good side of it. Not that being bloody and people sliced up or anything like that is a bad thing. But like I said, when you're watching it normally, you're just enjoying it, not thinking about that sort of stuff that is this type of anime that can get very bloody very fast. You're not thinking about that. But when you suddenly see it in the episode, like it was in this episode, in the middle of the episode, suddenly you see people being sliced up and blood everywhere. Then yeah, you get reminded of that this anime, that magic, can be that type of anime too. But yeah, I mean, like I said in the beginning of the episode, this episode definitely has been the best episode so far, and it's probably not going to be the best episode for very long, because I can already see the next episode being even better than this one, and that is a good thing, because like I said, this episode was very good. So being better than this episode is already a very good thing in itself. So yeah, you can rest assured that the next couple of episodes are going to be even better than this one. But yeah, we got a lot of big confessions in this episode. For example, one of the big confessions that we got was from Jura, and that he summoned this monster not necessarily because he wanted to kill Ryu. I mean, in a way he is doing it because of that, but that is not the main reason. The main reason he wants to summon this monster, or that he summoned this monster because he actually did it, is because he actually wants to tame it. I actually didn't see this coming, but it's actually expected, to be honest, now that I think about it, because I mean, he is a tamer and he is summoning a very powerful monster, so of course it makes sense that he wants to tame it. But I actually didn't thought of it until now that it was explained to us in this episode. That is the main reason he wants to summon this monster, and by consequence use it to kill Ryu and everyone else. So yeah, that is the main reason Jura wants to summon this monster. And I mean, I guess he's insane, because I mean, I don't think it will work. I don't think even with the magic item that he has, he's not going to be able to tame this monster, because this monster, Juggernaut, is not like the other monster we see in the floor. Because for starters, this monster, and this was another confession or another big surprise that we learned in this episode, is a monster that is summoned by the dungeon itself. I mean, I guess the other monsters are also created by the dungeon, but unlike the other monsters, this monster, the Juggernaut, has a very specific purpose, and that very specific purpose is to defend the dungeon itself, is to kill every adventure that it sees. This Juggernaut was actually created only for that, because apparently it was explained in the episode that if the dungeon itself takes a lot of damage in purpose, because if somebody tries to damage the dungeon in purpose, not because it was some side damage that was taken when fighting some other monsters in the dungeon, or because they were fighting some familiar or anything like that, but because somebody wanted to damage it purposely, then the dungeon will try to protect itself. And yeah, that is actually pretty interesting, because in a way the dungeon has a survival instinct that makes it summon this type of monster, the Juggernaut. Throughout the whole episode I was wondering something, and that was that if this monster is stronger than monsters that appear in lower floors, because I think it was explained by Bell or somebody else briefly that this monster was stronger than a floor boss. I think it refers, although not specifically said by him, I think he was referring to the floor 27 or some of those floors that are close by, not necessarily of the whole dungeon itself. He was not speaking of a floor boss of the dungeon in general. I think he was speaking about the 25th, 26th or 27th floor. So that is where my question lies. I wonder if this monster, the Juggernaut, is actually stronger stronger than floor boss monster that we see in lower levels of the dungeon, because that will be actually pretty interesting to hear that it is actually not, that this monster is actually not stronger than the floor boss, I don't know, of the floor 30 or the floor 50 if it exists, or of another lower dungeon floor boss. It is of course, like I said, stronger than the currently floor boss of the floor 27, 25, in whatever the floor boss appears, but it is stronger than that floor at least. So yeah, that is actually pretty interesting in itself, because the floor boss in itself is actually a pretty strong force to be reckoned with, and when you hear that it's actually even stronger than that, well, then you can already see how strong this monster will be. And now the second part of the review, I want to focus on two other very interesting things that happened in this episode. The first thing is going to be talking about the Astra Familia and the history it has with this Juggernaut monster, and the other part of the review will be of course talking about Bale in his current situation. So yeah, like I said, the Astra Familia apparently was killed, was wiped out because of this monster. Apparently the Astra Familia had a feud with the Familia that Jura was in, and so because of this, the Jura Familia was trying to wipe them out. And one of those things that they did is that one of those days when the Astra Familia was, you know, exploring the dungeon, they laid a trap on them. They laid bombs and tried to kill everybody of the Astra Familia. But of course, they didn't know that doing that was actually going to summon the Juggernaut. And I guess in a way you can say that they got more than they bargained for, because they summoned the Juggernaut without them even knowing that they were going to do that. And because of that, I mean, in a way, they did kill the Astra Familia, or almost all of the Astra Familia. But by consequence, all of their own familia also die, except for Jura and Ryu, of course. So yeah, the Astra Familia was actually wiped out by this monster, even though the intention of Jura's Familia was not actually to wipe out the Astra Familia using this monster, because nobody knows it exists, even to this day, because like it was explained by Uranus, they don't want to let everybody else knows that this monster exists, because if they do that, then there could be somebody that uses that for evil purposes, like we see, for example, Jura do in this episode. So yeah, because of this, nobody knows. And back then, Jura's Familia didn't actually know either. So that is actually pretty interesting to find out. And that is also the reason why Ryu is all shaken up, is all traumatized by this monster. That is the reason why she didn't take any action in this episode, because, well, like I said, she is traumatized. She doesn't want to face this monster that killed her familia. And it was explained by Jura that apparently during that fight, Ryu was only out there to basically survive. She was not interested in saving her own familia. And it is even explained by him that she even killed her own familia members. So I don't know if that is true or not. But even if it's true, I think it is a twisted truth, because I think if that did happen, it was because probably her own familia members told her to kill them, because maybe they didn't want to suffer, maybe they didn't want to be in pain or something like that. But yeah, take it with a grain of salt what Jura said, because after all, it is coming from him. So yeah. And now talking about the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is Bale's current situation. The episode made it seem like he was going to die, because at the end of the episode, we see how he's losing vision, things are getting darker and darker, and his eyes are almost fading out in a way. So yeah, the episode made it seem like he was about to die, but I don't think that is going to be the case, because it is Bale we're talking about after all. He is the main protagonist of the anime, and even if that is the case, even in a worst case scenario where Bale does actually die, I think there is going to be a way to revive him or something like that. Or maybe he's not going to die, maybe he's only unconscious temporarily, but at the very least he did lose an arm, so that is something that will actually have to be fixed if he does live. Or maybe it will not be fixed, maybe he will use some sort of prosthetic arm or something like that. So let's see if he can actually be fixed or not. Now that I think about it, maybe Mary, the mermaid, will actually have to do something with Bale waking up, or reviving or whatever she does, because she did say in this episode that she was going to go to Bale. So yeah, and I actually forgot about that. Maybe she has to do something with Bale. And even at the end of the episode, if I'm not remembering wrong, I think see Bale passing out unconscious besides a river. So yeah, there is a way for actually Mary to get there. So let's see if that is the case. Maybe I'm thinking too much, maybe I'm speculating too much, and that doesn't actually have to do anything with Bale getting better or reviving or, you know, being well. Maybe that's not related, but at least it would seem to be that way. At least the episode sort of indicated that, because when you add things up, you know, she is going to him, he's unconscious there besides a river. I mean, it sort of adds up for her to help Bale in a way. And of course, we also have to remember that she can heal people, because in past episodes we learned that mermaid's blood is a powerful healing ability. It's almost a forbidden ability that not many people know about. So yeah, when you take that into account, it even makes more sense. I don't know if it could heal arms or anything like that, but at least it could make Bale conscious again. So let's see if that is the case. But yeah, it was a very tough fight for Bale, because even though he's a level 4, I mean, he was no match for this monster. He got beaten down badly. He didn't stood a chance. I mean, he sort of said in the middle of the fight that maybe if he landed a blow first to the monster, maybe he could have taken it out. But I mean, that was not the case, because as we saw when he used Firebolt, the monster didn't actually take any damage. Or maybe he actually can take damage, but not from magic spell. Maybe it has to be hand-to-hand combat, you know, something physical. Maybe you have to attack it physically, because if you use some sort of spell or anything like that, or magic or something related, maybe it doesn't take any damage. Because we do see him sort of have a shield when Firebolt was used. So yeah, but I guess the question everyone has now is if Ryu and everybody else is going to stand a chance against the Juggernaut, because now that Bale is well up for the fight, I don't know if Ryu and everybody else can stand a chance. And I don't think backup is coming from the Hestia Familia, because Cassandra doesn't want anyone to go down to the 27th floor. So maybe support is not coming in for Ryu, or maybe it is. Maybe somehow Cassandra does actually let them go down to the 27th floor. So yeah, let's see if Ryu and everybody else that is currently alive stand a chance against the Juggernaut. But yeah, that is everything for me. I hope you enjoyed my review, and I guess I'll see you all in the next episode review.